Well, this one's going to be a little bit different. There's not going to be any fun intros. There's not going to be any instances of me talking to myself, as much as I enjoy doing those. There won't even really be any jokes made. If you didn't see the score, or were under a rock, Golden Knights lose Game 2 of the Western Conference second round to the Edmonton Oilers by a final score of 5-1. Yeah, that hurts just saying. And it's not the score that bothers me so much, because this team has, especially in the playoffs, lost some pretty lopsided games in its history. The time they got, getting beat 5-1 by the Jets in the first game of the playoffs this year, losing 7-1 to the Colorado Avalanche 2 years ago in the second round, Game 1. But this game felt different. And whether it's because the media, or because of the narrative around the series, or the team in question on the other side of the ice, this game just had a bit of an achy feeling to it. I knew something was going to be off when the NHL moved the game from its original slot on Friday, as every other playoff series is game on, day off, game, day off, etc. The NHL decided to move the Game 2 of this series from Friday to Saturday as the only game on, because, they lost most of their TV markets in New York and Boston and Tampa and Colorado and LA. So they had to find some way to get people to turn on the game, and they decided to go to their old favorite pastime, which is, let's put the Golden Knights on television so we can laugh at them for 3.5 hours. And in essence, what it did not only is give the league exactly that, it let their star players give an extra day to rest, and it gave the Oilers a chance to adjust to getting absolutely shell-shocked by the Golden Knights in Game 1. Now, I've seen so many videos pop up on Twitter and on my YouTube feed over the last 12 hours, which are saying, I don't know how anybody can beat this Oilers team, completely forgetting that they gave up 6 goals in Game 1 and lost, and the series is tied. This is less to do about, the actual events of the game, and more to do with my frustration about the game as a whole. The Golden Knights were not a good team. They did not play like a good team. The team that took the ice in Game 1 must have already been on the plane to Alberta by now, because that was not the team that played Game 2. The team that played Game 1 was detail-oriented, defensively strong, played a good transition game, quick, decisive moves through the neutral zone, crisp passing, and, an overall assertiveness and sureness about what they were trying to accomplish in all 3 zones, offensive, neutral, and defensive. The team that played Game 2 was the exact opposite of that. I don't understand what they were trying to accomplish here. There was no certainty. They had 4 shots on goal in the first period, which is just unacceptable, given that in Game 1 there were 4 shots on goal for the Golden Knights in the first 30 seconds of the game. So I don't understand where the offensive instincts went. I don't understand where the defensive instincts went. It was like those games earlier on after the All-Star break, where I think the Golden Knights lost 7-2 at home twice over the course of a month. And that's how this game felt. I could tell right from puck drop that this was not going to be a good game. Couldn't get the puck in the offensive zone at all. And, when you're dealing with the greatest power play in the history of NHL ever since 1977, when they started tracking the power play statistics, yeah, let's give him a power play for the second game in a row in the first 2 minutes of the game. And yeah, let's let Leon Draisaitl score his 5th goal of the series, because that's a great way to kick off the game. Oh my God, I just don't understand why you had 3 days to prepare, and they had 3 days to prepare, and you had to know that they were going to run at you full speed. They ran at you full speed, and you folded. It's bonkers. You take a penalty, you give up a power play goal. So it's 1-0. It's exactly how it was in Game 1, which is okay. And unlike Game 1, you come out after they score with, again, negative pushback, basically. You did nothing. The forwards couldn't get into the neutral zone, they couldn't get through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone if their life depended on it. And you're letting Edmonton superstars just run rampant, not because they're great, but because you can't stay out of the penalty box as you go right back to the penalty kill like 3 minutes later. And lo and behold, now it's 2-0 because their power play is so good. And, so it's 2-0. And it's a miracle if you get out of the period, down 2 because you got nothing. The game is 6 minutes old and you're already down 2. But then you get that power play and everything's feeling okay because, special teams can tip this. And then you give up a shorthanded goal to Connor McDavid because, of course, you do. So it's 3-0 now. And at that point, the game's basically over. The Golden Knights in their 6-year history, for what I can remember, have only come back from down 3-0 like twice. And I was in the building for one of those games. It was against St. Louis, I believe in like January of 2020. And so that's not great. And the team's got nothing going for it at this point. And so, I'm, already contemplating, what I'm going to say in this video, how I'm going to find something interesting. But I'm trying to hold out hope because the Golden Knights have come back from down 3 before. And it's the Oilers. They are prone to, blowing it up from time to time and blowing some pretty big lead. They did blow a 5-1 lead earlier on in the regular season, but that's not important. And then with a few minutes to go, Nick Hague decides to run over a defenseman, throwing him into Laurent Brossoit, and that results in Draisaitl's second goal of the game. And now it's 4-0. That's never happened in team history. So it's pretty much a lost cause at this point. And then McDavid scores another one on the power play in the second period. So McDavid's got 2, Draisaitl's got 2, Evan Bouchard has the other goal. And by that point, the media has completely turned away, saying, how are the Golden Knights ever going to win another game? This team is too good. They wound up going 3 for 6 on the power play. The second and third period was just a slugfest, and I know there were some scuffles, and I know that there was a lot of pounds of flesh taken on either side, and who knows, I'm recording this the morning after. There may be some suspensions for being idiots, and if you're the Oilers, that's exactly what you wanted. Sure, the Golden Knights did a good job of getting under the skin of Evander Kane, and that's worked for them in the past when playing the San Jose Sharks when he was a member of that organization, but this is a different series now. It was 1-1 going to Winnipeg in the first round, and, we all know how that went. Golden Knights won both games up north and then won Game 5 at home to wrap up the series. This isn't the Winnipeg Jets. This is the Edmonton Oilers, who everybody has already written in as the Stanley Cup champions for this year. And, we're going to ignore the fact that I'm frustrated that the Golden Knights get no respect in the national media, which is frustrating in of itself, and that you're essentially playing against the Messiah in McDavid. And, yeah, their power play is incredible, but here's the kicker. They can't score on the power play if you don't give them power plays. So they got to be more disciplined, the Golden Knights do. You cannot be taking penalties in the first 2 minutes of every game because they're going to score. You just have to accept the fact that they will score at least 2 power play goals a game if you give them 3 power plays. So here's a novel concept. Don't give them 3 power plays. Play discipline, play smart, play the structured defense that won you the Pacific Division and put you as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Don't play their game because that's what Game 2 was. You played the Oilers' game. You let them slow you down in the neutral zone. You let them walk into the offensive zone. And they're going to score 5 every time they do that because they're the Oilers and because they have the 2 most talented players in the NHL right now. So I just don't understand what the game plan was. It was never going to work. And yes, we didn't get shut out, which is great. We've only been shut out a handful of times this season, but and it's great that Barbashev gets his 3rd goal of the series, but it just didn't matter because the game was over after the first period. And you're at home. T-Mobile Arena's got one of the best, one of the best fan bases in the NHL, got one of the most vocal crowds, and yet you took them completely out of it. And I just don't understand. Yeah. That was incredibly frustrating. And now it's just a completely different series. For the next 2 days, all we're going to hear is, have the Oilers finally woken up? Are they going to win the next 3 games and get the series over with? Can you start putting McDavid's name on the Stanley Cup? And I hate that narrative because there is still a tied series at hand. YouTubers and Twitter pundits and hockey writers are already saying the series is over. It's a tie series. And I know it doesn't sound like it because I'm being very defeatist, but that was not a good game. I guess the only semblance of solace in this is you know, whether you lose by 1 in triple overtime or 4 and you never even had a chance, it still counts as 1 loss. And you don't get bonus points. You don't pick up an extra win for completely dismantling the team you're playing against. If you did, then this series would be over already. But it's not. I knew that this series was going to be 6, if not 7, because both of these teams are incredibly talented. And so that does inter, 2 to 3 losses throughout the series. And so may as well lose the ugly ones because they were going to win that game anyway. I tried to be really upset about the fact that the team didn't have any pushback, but if you look at it pragmatically, if you give up 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal in the first period, I don't care if you're playing the Anaheim Ducks or the Arizona Coyotes or the Buffalo Sabres. You're not winning that game, let alone playing the Edmonton Oilers. So if you look at the raw data of the game, the Oilers have only scored 1 5-on-5 goal. Obviously, that puts their total of 5-on-5 to 3 for the entire series. So the game plan does practically work. If the VGK can stay out of the penalty box, they have a chance of winning the games. And I've said that from the very beginning of the series. They didn't do it in game 1, and they got lucky because they were able to pot 2 power play goals of their own, 1 at the empty net, 1 to make it 3-1 in the first period. This game was different. They weren't able to answer on the power play. Edmonton was able to score on their first 2 power plays, and and a shorthanded goal. So really, that's 4 because McDavid's on the penalty kill because of course he is, and he made Shea Theodore look like an amateur on that one. Honestly, granted, that's because they couldn't get into the damn zone. So that's neither here nor there. I don't really blame Shea for that one. But the fact of the matter is, if you keep the game 5-on-5, we have a decent chance of winning because we're just a better 5-on-5 team. That's something that's agreed upon everywhere. The problem is you have to stay out of the box to do that. So no ticky-tack penalties in the first 2 minutes because McDavid chips the puck up the wall. And as much as I like the physicality, don't cross-check Zach Hyman into the goddamn goalpost. It's never going to work. They're going to call it. They're just going to call it. I'm not going to say there's some conspiracy behind it, but the NHL does stand to have more to gain by having the Oilers in the Western Conference Final or the Golden Knights. But that's just me being an angry fan, talking about how the penalties were a little bit of a mess, and I'm just upset that my team didn't play well. But that being said, it's a long series. There's plenty of games to go. 2 in Alberta. We're the best remaining road team in the playoffs. I believe we won 1 of our games against the Oilers up north already this year anyway. So there will be an adjustment. And before you guys go off about it, I don't blame Laurent Brossoit for this one. He actually played pretty well. I know the Oilers shut it down in the second and third period when they were up, but he gave up 3 power play goals, which is going to happen. And he gave up 1 shorthanded breakaway to McDavid, which is just going to happen. He only gave up 1 5-on-5 goal, and it's because he got tackled by Nick Hague. So he really didn't give up any goals, even strength that he could do anything about. And so I don't blame him. He played okay. He played good in game 1, which is what matters. So I still think they're going to go with him in game 3. If we see Adin Hill, then I'm going to be a little bit concerned. But you're gonna have a bad game every once in a while, and that's allowed to happen. I'm sure there are things to be learned about it. I'm sure Bruce is gonna lay into them after the game and in the morning and during the morning skate and before game 3. So there are learning moments. Game 3 will be really where the series is, has its mettle tested. The winner of game 3 often goes on to win the series, and the winner of game 4 more often than not goes on to win the series. So these next 2 games are going to be critical on Monday and Wednesday. So we're going to see how that goes. I mean, there's no reason to be concerned because, you have to assume they're going to score on every power play they get. And so that's kind of what I've approached these games at now. It happens. You have bad games every once in a while. You get past them. You learn from it. You adjust. And you accept the fact that you're playing the 2 most talented players in the NHL right now. So we'll see what happens on Monday. I think that's all I have to say on the topic. I'm I'm sure like every fan reeling from that game a little bit, but I at least have a platform to vent that frustration out of. And hopefully I've channeled the catharsis of the entire fan base, and hopefully the powers that be hear the complaints and hopefully help us stay out of the box in game 3. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys after game 3.